Hi, guys. Yay. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you all. Hi, guys. Hi, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm really grateful that you guys are jumping on and so happy you're here. So, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. So, for those of you who may not know me, my name is Lana Jean Tejas, and I am the creator of Worthy and Wild, a space for women who are ready to stop living on autopilot and start intentionally creating lives that feel aligned with who they are becoming in this season of life. And I'm a wife, a mother, a grandmother, an educator, a hiker, backpacker, and a writer. And honestly, a woman who has reinvented herself many times, more times than I can count, probably. I think you guys can relate to that. My journey has not been a straight line, like most. There were chapters of my life where I struggled deeply. There were moments where, on paper, my future did not look very promising. Someday I will tell you all my story. But over and over again, I have discovered that we are not defined by the hardest chapters of our story. Thank goodness, right? I went back to school in my 40s. I built a new career in education. I climbed mountains I once thought were impossible, literally and figuratively. And now, at almost 60 years old, I'm preparing for what I believe will be my next great adventure. And so I share all of that because I don't believe there is an expiration date on becoming who we're meant to be, right? And I think, hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. And that's really what tonight is all about. I've been thinking a lot lately about the word someday. Someday I'll get healthier. I probably have been in every single one of these scenarios at some point or another. Someday I'll write the book. Someday I'll take the trip. Someday I'll leave the job that no longer feels aligned with who I am. Someday I'll start that business. Someday I'll finish put myself on the list, right? And the truth is, someday is actually a very comfortable place to live. I have lived there because someday doesn't require anything from us, right? But I feel like, and I wrote this in my article, my most recent article, a date does, a decision does. And so a few weeks ago, I did do something on the surface, looked very small. And it's not that I hadn't been thinking about it for quite a while. It's just that I had finally made that decision to pick a date. And the day it's the day that I'll retire from a career that I have spent decades building. It's a career that I didn't think I would ever leave, honestly, so that I could step into the next chapter of my life. And what was really fascinating is that nothing changed the next morning, right? I went to that same job. I had the same responsibilities. Like I wrote in my article, my bank account didn't suddenly change, but everything changed for me. And I don't know if anyone else has ever felt that way or been in that situation, but it was because I stopped negotiating with myself. And the most profound realization I have had is that my future self is not waiting for me on the other side of retirement, right? She's the one being built right now. And, it's through, and I know that many of you have shared similar stories, right? She's being built right now through the books that I have read, through the skills that I'm developing, through the risks that I take, being on these lives. That's one. The boundaries I set, the courage that I have, I continue to practice. And I want to ask all of you a question also. It's like, who is the woman or man that you keep saying you're going to become, right? The woman who gets healthy, the woman who finally takes the trip, the woman who starts the business or writes the book or, leaves the relationship or finally says no, or maybe it's just says yes to something, right? But whoever she is the woman who stops shrinking. And I would, ask, like, what is the someday that keeps whispering to you? And I know I've been very fortunate and I feel very blessed that a lot of you have shared your stories. And it's just awesome to see that people are in similar situations. And I have noticed something lately, and I know that some of you might feel this way too. I forget what it's called. There's a word for it, but they say that when what we pay attention to grows, right? And so I have you ever noticed that, like, once something is placed in your heart or in your mind, that you start seeing it everywhere, whether it's a word, a thing, a concept, a question. Um, but something has been really following me around lately, and it's this idea of being reasonable. And I think just because of making this decision, it's really kind of at the forefront for me right now. Um, but I've been noticing it everywhere, like books I'm reading, podcasts I'm listening to, conversations that I'm having. This question keeps coming up. What's the cost of being reasonable? I think I even listened to a podcast the other day that had that almost that exact title. Um, and I really do believe deeply in gratitude. Gratitude has changed my life. But I also believe that you can be deeply grateful for your life and still desire expansion. And I've talked about this in articles that I've written, that you can love your life and still want more. And I think especially as women, we have been taught to be reasonable, right? Don't ask for too much. Don't start over at this age. Don't take a risk. Don't make people uncomfortable. Um, don't think you're meant for something different. But if I look back at the biggest moments of my life, none of them were reasonable. It was not reasonable for me to believe that after making serious mistakes in my early 20s, that I would go back to school and become a teacher. Um, I thought that would never be in the cards for me. Um, it was not, and then even looking back now, like looking at that, the fact that I'm an administrator, like I would have never imagined that. Um, Yes, frequency illusion. Yes, thank you. Um, it's and it wasn't reasonable to move to a new town without a job, buy a house, and trust that somehow we would figure it all out, but we did. It's not reasonable to start a completely new career in my 40s. It was not reasonable to stand on top of Mount Whitney in my 50s. And some would say it's not reasonable to choose a date to leave a stable career and build something entirely new. But every single time I have chosen the path that looked unreasonable on paper, I found a version of myself I never would have met had I stayed where I was. I didn't think I was going to get emotional. um, but I think one of the greatest lies that we tell ourselves is that our lives will change when the circumstances change, right? And I think we've all been there. When we have more time, right? More money, more, especially for women, right? More confidence, more certainty. Um, but I have learned that, and we know this, right? Confidence, it does not come before we act. It's built because we act. And I think, and also just one small decision becomes evidence, evidence that we're capable, that we can do the hard thing, that our future self is possible. And I don't want to sound salesy, but it's really why I created the expansion readiness audit, because over the last several months, I've just felt really called, um, because of all of the women that I have been building this community with, just have really inspired me. Um, just through writing and conversations and hearing your stories, I've realized something, that so many women are standing on the edge of a new chapter. I mean, I have friends that say this too, just like, I don't know where to go next. I don't know, um, I don't know what to do. And so it's just really kind of came to light for me that I've just felt called to do this. So I really feel like some of us are caring too much, or we're returning to ourselves and not really knowing, what the next step is. Or some of us are standing on the edge of something we know we're meant to do. Um, and some of you have, you're already doing it. You're doing the hard work. And I'm really inspired by that. And so, but I really feel like almost all of us are asking the same question: what comes next? Right. Um, and so, tonight I did want to share something with you that honestly feels a little scary. I really did not plan on coming on live tonight. But I just really thought, you know what? I talk a lot about making the decision before you have every single detail figured out. And I figured I better walk the talk or talk the walk, right? And I realized I needed to do the same. And so I am gonna open my very first expansion lab founding circle. And it's a small pilot group of women who are ready to stop saying someday and begin intentionally building what comes next. And we'll walk through the expansion readiness audit together, and we'll receive you're going to receive like guided workbook, reflections, all the stuff that comes with things like that, right? But I really want to meet regularly and just have honest conversations and begin turning someday into a plan. And I do want to say something else that I've really been sitting with. I know there are women in this community who are standing exactly where I am right now. Um, Maybe you have a business idea that you've carried around for years. Maybe you have a book inside of you. I know I do. Maybe there's a dream or a passion or a completely different chapter that keeps calling your name. Maybe, like me, you're stepping into something where you do not have every answer. Um, and I think that's exactly why we need each other, right? Um, so I'm not, and I have no idea why I'm emotional. um, I'm not standing here saying that I have it all figured out, follow me, right? I'm saying I'm walking this path too, um, and just come walk beside me. Man, I do not know why this got me. Sorry, guys. Um, I just really truly believe there's something powerful about a group of women saying, maybe this is the place where we practice courage together. Things like this do take courage, right? Where we stop waiting for permission, where we stop waiting to feel ready. Um, where we just begin taking courageous steps toward the life we keep imagining. I know Karina knows that. um, ugh, sorry guys. Um, but I just really feel like this first step, right? Building this community and going further, um, this founding circle, I really do. I want to offer it at, you know, I want to do something special that a group of women, so that you guys can help me shape what the expansion lab becomes. And so I am looking for women who are willing to be honest and reflective and willing to grow with me. I really feel like there's so many of us that want to do the same thing and we just don't know, right? How do we do this? And I feel like if we do this together, then there's no stopping us, right? And so if this is speaking to you, I would really love for you to message me or comment, expand. Definitely no pressure whatsoever. It's just a conversation. And because maybe the reason this idea keeps finding you and me is because it's time to stop calling it someday, right? Um, and so I just want to leave you with the same question I asked in my article. What future version of yourself have you been talking about for years, but not yet fully committed to? What would happen if you stopped treating her like a possibility and started treating her like a commitment? So maybe your next chapter is not waiting for the perfect plan. And that is definitely, if the perfect plan, I wouldn't be crying right now. um, Maybe it's just waiting for a decision. And so I really want to thank you guys for spending the evening with me, and your time, and for trusting me. So many of you that are on here right now have shared your stories with me, and this community. And I just really appreciate you so much. Um, and thank you for reminding me every day that the life we imagine is built one brave decision at a time. There's so many brave women on here. Um, I really appreciate this community so much, and I love you all. And remember, I always say be present, stay curious, and lead with gratitude. Have a wonderful night, everyone. And thank you so much for putting up with me. I appreciate it so much. Have a good night. Love you all.